Hello guys and welcome back to a new episode of Italian Politician of the Week. I am Ipernick, the greatest silent, and today we're talking about Luigi Di Maio, one of the major exponents of the five-star movement and our current foreign minister. Di Maio is one of the youngest high-ranking politicians we ever had. He's only 35, and yet he has done more than most people twice his age. However, what is impressive and concerning at the same time about him is the fact that he lacks any kind of proper title that gives him no ability to govern whatsoever. Di Maio excels in leadership, though he has a vast arrangement of followers in and outside the party. Before we begin, I want to tell you about my Discord server and my subscribe star. I haven't done so in a while. On Discord we share memes, talk about politics and history, and shitpost on voice chat. While on subscribe star, you give me $1 a month and I give you a VIP status in the Discord and access to exclusive polls for future videos. Now that's clear to everyone, let's talk about the history of Luigi Di Maio. Di Maio was born in 1986 in Avellino. His first political activity dates back to his university years in the early 2000s. He started studying IT in 2004 at the University of Naples, but then changed to law in 2006. You can say he did pretty well because he was even elected student council president. However, he dropped everything in 2007 in order to follow Beppe Grillo's political initiatives. Grillo is a comedian and politician who founded the five-star movement. Back then he was testing the ground and hosting rallies to get people interested in politics. He was a populist in the purest sense. Grillo advocated for the replacement of dishonest politicians with honest young people with humble backgrounds. Di Maio was like the embodiment of the ideal politician according to Grillo's ideology. He came from the lower middle classes and didn't excel in anything in particular, but was outgoing, young and easy to relate to. Di Maio will be among the founding fathers of the party, and until then he picked up some odd jobs here and there. Which jobs? Well, anything really, from IT consultant to food seller at stadiums. To be fair though, he also worked a bit as a publisher journalist, which is not something to scoff at. He was a hard worker, I will give him that. From 2013 onwards everything changed. Di Maio joined the Chamber of Deputies because he was elected there, and he was also made the vice president of it. Now here's an interesting thing about the five-star movement. Unlike all other parties that have a bunch of leaders choosing all the nominees for an institutional role or the list of parliamentarians, the movement used a website called Rousseau. They use it to this day still, but it's far from its golden age. Di Maio was very popular among the voters of the website, so suddenly his quick rise to power makes a lot more sense. In 2014 he will be chosen by Beppe Grillo to be one of the leaders of the party alongside Alessandro Di Battista, Roberto Fico, Carla Rucco and Carlo Sibilla. Di Battista and Fico are certainly two people I really want to talk about. Di Battista was the voice of the anti-establishment wing of the party before last year when he left. He was kind of a populist philosopher, which is a very intriguing combination. Fico, on the other hand, is the current president of the Chamber of Deputies, and he's cool because he's progressive. If you would like to see a poll with interesting five-star movement personalities, be sure to like the video. If we get to 30 likes, I'll be sure to include them. POV, it's 2017, the elections are in less than a year and the party is growing rapidly. Chances are that the five-star movement will be let into a coalition in the next government, so Grillo decided to nominate a party secretary to ease the coming consultations. People voted on the internet and you guessed it, Di Maio won. Now the electoral campaign for the 2018 elections are kind of fucked up the more you think about it. The public enemy number one was Matteo Renzi, whose reforms are generally looked at positively today with a bit of hindsight, despite some obvious problems in the implementation of such programs. However, the biggest blunder of the PD-led governments between 2013 and 2018 was immigration, which is understandable since 2015 saw millions of Syrians and North Africans leaving their countries to go to Europe. The Interior Minister Marco Minniti tried to solve that by regulating the influx of migrants, which kind of worked, but it also damaged Italy's reputation since we had to work with the Libyan Coast Guard, which notoriously treats immigrants like animals. Now that it was determined that immigration was Renzi's soft belly, Salvini, Meloni and Di Maio started poking it with spears in order to gain public support. Salvini was particularly good because he was like, Minniti, you're so silly. Here's what you have to do to stop immigration. It's very easy. Just close the ports. Yep, just close them. How do I close a port? Just close it, duh. Di Maio echoed this message, but he needed something more to have an edge. This opportunity came from the small town of Bibbiano, where a big scandal erupted about the unlawful custody of children. Basically, there was this state-hosted center for minors' welfare that would just claim a family didn't have the right requirements to guarantee a good life to their kids, just to take them and give them to another family who was asking for one. Some of these procedures seemed a bit suspicious, and so an investigation began where the mayor was loosely involved. And I say loosely, it was almost a formality. The mayor, Andrea Carletti, was from the left, and so Di Maio went ahead and accused the PD of being a party of child abusers. Since Renzi refused to address the issue because it was a non-issue and it was none of the party's business, soon a lot of people started using their silence as proof of their guilt. The slogan "Tell us about Bibbiano" was repeated to the point of exhaustion. Another big thing that made Di Maio popular was his plan to introduce government handouts to people who were looking for a job, basically giving extra money for the unemployed. It will be thanks to Di Maio's campaign that at the 2018 elections about 1/3 of Italians voted for the five-star movement, especially southern Italians. Lega also did pretty well. As for the Democratic Party, they obtained the lowest scores ever since 2001, and Renzi resigned. This was all despite PD's lack of involvement in the Bibbiano controversy. In fact, the mayor will later be removed from the list of suspected affiliates and will be re-elected in 2019 with 78% of the votes from his people, who never believed the propaganda and were certain of his innocence from the very beginning. In 2018, Giuseppe Conte led a government coalition between Lega and the Five-Star Movement. If you want to know the details, check the video I made on him already. Di Maio became Minister of Employment and started working on creating the citizen income to give the Italian job seekers. The program provided around 500 euros a month to unemployed Italian citizens in exchange for their availability in doing some occasional voluntary work. In the meantime, the state hired a bunch of functionaries called navigators who looked for jobs for the people signed up to the program. This sounded all good in theory, but it turned out that many of the appliers either never answered the calls for job applications or voluntary work, or just didn't have the proper requirements to get the money. I'm talking about people who already had jobs without contracts, so there was no way to prove that they were working, hence they didn't pay any taxes, or even people who were not even Italian citizens. They were literally people coming from Romania to pick up the citizen income money with fake documents. The navigators themselves weren't much better because many of them were not actually doing their job and just got paid for doing nothing. What was particularly ridiculous was Di Maio's celebration right after the implementation of the program for ending poverty, which is silly. Another thing Di Maio did was to go to France to meet the Yellow Jackets during the protests of 2018 and 2019, something that angered Macron so much that he called back the French ambassador in Italy. To give you an idea of the gravity of such action, last time France called back its ambassador in Italy was in 1939. 1 year later, this man became foreign minister. One of his biggest accomplishments is signing the Silk Road Agreement with China, which is a terrible idea, but he did it. So, I mean, Draghi said he will change the terms of the contract, though I'm not sure if that's even a possibility. Other than that, he hasn't done anything particularly revolutionary, at least nothing that comes to mind. For some reason, journalists are obsessed with him whenever he goes to the beach. I guess because he dresses up like the average Italian on vacation, which honestly I find it kind of cute, although there are some things that I think should stay unseen. What caused a bit of controversy was the fact that this summer, during the fall of Kabul, Di Maio was on vacation and people gave him shit for it. Though I have to say that's quite an annoying thing to point out, since everyone is on vacation in Italy in the middle of August. Despite despite the bad press and the shitty decisions he has made, I feel like Di Maio has all the potential to be harmless, and that's exactly what I want him to be. I want him to be able to do the least as possible because he destroys everything he touches. It's not his fault, but I'd rather him to stay away from politics altogether. Politically, he's definitely left-wing, both economically and socially, and he's also a supporter of direct democracy. He thinks that the social reforms on gay marriage and abortion should be something to be determined by a referendum, and I honestly find these points to be very valid, because he certainly can't accomplish anything positive. So him actually going out of his way to say, oh, that's not up to me to change the world, but it's up to people voting, I find that a very admirable trait. Today, Di Maio competes against Conte for party leadership. They are both very centrist, but I guess Conte is a lot less flexible, hence giving Di Maio an advantage. So, what do you think about Luigi Di Maio? Do you like him? Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments. I will see you next time.